What's going on, everybody? It's Patrick Dang here with the Parallax, and today I have a special guest. This is going to be Frenchie, who is leading the team over at BlockPax. You might have seen some of his projects, for example, Lost Miners and many more. So, Frenchie, how you doing, man?
Pretty good, Patrick. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. I appreciate you coming on as well. For people who might be new to your project and everything you're doing, right? How would you explain like BlockPax and everything you're doing over there?
So at the top level, we have the BPX collective that kind of is the umbrella over everything that we're doing. And BlockPax is actually our onboarding and distribution platform. So what we've built with BlockPax is we've built gamified experiences to bring IRL collectors into Web3 and introducing them to the idea of owning a digital asset. And what does that mean? So one of the first things that we ever did is we started tokenizing real physical sports and trading cards. So
Gotcha.
Charizard, Michael Jordan, you name it. We would tokenize it. If you own the NFT, you own the underlying asset. And then we put them in digital packs that you could rip and basically have a chance to win one of those physical cards. And so that was something that physical collectors instantly understood. They instantly gravitated towards that. And to my knowledge, no other ecosystem has come close to onboarding the number of real world collectors that we have. And so that's the core of our ecosystem is those people, and they behave differently than what you may see in a lot of the more degen culture of NFTs. And I don't have a problem with flipping and that sort of thing, but it's just different. When you're a collector, it's different. And so we're building an ecosystem for collectors. Our end goal, our North Star, is to create digital collectible adventures, things that there's a clear thesis of why you would want to buy it today and why you could see yourself holding it in 10 years. We don't think in days and weeks, we think in years. I believe very much in the technology and where it's headed and where it's going to, how it's going to, that it's legitimately going to transform many aspects of our lives. And I think collecting will be a big part of that.
Gotcha. Okay, so thanks for sharing the high level gist of what's going on. But what I'm curious also is like for you, like what is your background? I see behind you, you got like a lot of collectibles and like sports and everything like that. So people
Yep.
like to know who the founder is, right? So like what was your background in collectibles?
Yeah. So collecting as a whole is very much in my DNA. I went to school as an accountant by trade. As you can see from a little gray in my beard, I've been around for a while. I was here for the first .com boom. I mean, I was actually at PricewaterhouseCoopers in
Yeah.
the late '90s at the turn of the millennium to
Okay.
usher in the very early days of the internet, and I was able to work on a number of .com clients and see the inner workings of their businesses as they were taking these companies public, raising rounds, doing all these things. And I said, I think I can do that. And so, as a young entrepreneur, I set out to begin building businesses in this what was a completely emerging space. Did that, stayed around in Web 2, filed a patent for what's called lookalike ad targeting, had a lot of success there. Still have an agency business that I own that's in that space, and has actually allowed me to fund all my development in Web3 and to have the team and that sort of thing, that I've been able to pull a SWAT team of people out of that agency, still service all my clients because that's a mature business, and
Yeah.
then bring people over to be able to build in Web3. But my background's in as far as me personally,
Yeah.
is collecting is in my DNA. I've done it since I was a child. All collectors, you like to notch wins, and I think I've got 8 different athletes that I've sold their highest sports card ever. Specific issues of cards. So like just stuff that and it's stuff that I started collecting before I really had as much of a financial motive. It was just I collected because I enjoyed it. And then as it became more of an alternative asset class, I've been around in that space for a long time. So
Got it.
yeah,
Wait, quick question. You said you filed a patent for lookalike audiences. Like, is
yeah.
that like the lookalike audiences that like all the platforms use to, or is that like a different?
It's
I'm
so
just curious.
there's a couple of different iterations of it. Mine is a specific patent that pairs it with offline research data, and there's actually a couple of different lookalike patents. But yes, I have one of those. And so at one point, I licensed the technology to. There's 5 different ad agencies that control about 80% of the global budgets and so We've licensed it to all of them at various points or another. But today, we mainly use it as a services business where we bring both the tech stack and the services stack, and that's actually the way the business actually was the most profitable and worked the best for us.
Interesting.
That's the core business.
Gotcha. Okay, that's pretty cool. So now getting back to the collectible side, right? So you're doing the whole Web 2 thing, and you've always been collecting. So like, what got you into the whole crypto thing at NFTs? Because it seems like you were doing great before, right? So like, why jump into this whole like rabbit hole?
Well, I've always tried to just kind of stay ahead of what's coming. I just, from a personal standpoint, I don't ever want to get in a situation where down the road I have grandkids and they walk in and I can't work their latest technological device. Like, I don't want to be that guy. So I want to stay up with what's going on. And I actually had a developer of mine that was mining Bitcoin back years and years ago. I can't even remember exactly. It was early. And I admit, I laughed. I was like, man, what are you talking about? That's crazy. And so if I would have listened to him, I mean, oh my God, like, it could have been a whole different ballgame. I could have shifted that whole business into a Bitcoin mine at the time. But when I guess it just takes a minute, but when I finally fully understood digital ownership, and that it is no different than owning something in the physical world. And once it finally clicked for me, the idea of self-custody, the idea of holding something in my wallet, I immediately knew that these are real assets, and where there are real assets, people are going to want to collect them. And it's a space that I've always loved, and I set out to build something in that space. And so it's just, again, it was in my DNA. It's something I've always wanted to do. I'm really excited about the way we're going about it and the things that we have coming. And it's just something I get up every day, and I'm really excited to be in this space for sure.
Gotcha. And I mean, yeah, that's definitely important. Now, a question I have on like, I'm looking at the BlockPax website, right? And I'm trying to get like a better understanding of how it works. So is it that you have these physical collectibles like baseball cards and things like that, and then you, in a way, tokenize them so that when people buy it from your website, they kind of own the right to the actual physical? Is that accurate?
Yeah. So like I said, so if we're going to talk about BlockPax specifically, BlockPax is our onboarding platform, which is, we primarily promote that to real world collectors. So if you come in and buy into one of our drops, what you're buying is you're buying packs of infinite moment NFTs. They're a real accessible NFT that commemorates famous moments in sports in history. And then you rip them out of packs. You can get them in different color parallels, from commons up to black 1 of 1s. We have golds out of 10. But what you do is people build sets of those, collect them. But then about a week later, we have a snapshot. And that snapshot, for every infinite moment you have from that current series in your wallet, you get one Raz pack. And when you open a Raz pack, what's in those is one of two things. You either win a prize instantly, so you get an instant winner. It says, congratulations, you've won this Michael Jordan card. Or you get one of 2,048 entries to win that Michael Jordan card. So what happens there is every day, half of those entries get eliminated. So it starts at 2048. The next day we're down to 1024. The next day we go down to 512 to 256. You get down to, once you get down into the final round of 8, 4, 2, and 1, if that's a $50,000 asset, a sports card that's worth $50,000, you get down to the final 8. Each of those tokens is, now worth $6,000-$7,000. If you're familiar with some of the burn mechanics that are in place with something like the checks, where the whole concept is, as it burns, they're supposed to get more valuable. Well, in this case, they absolutely do, because at the end of the rainbow, there's a physical asset that's worth a lot of money. And we've given away sports cards that are over $50,000 in value. We've given away mutant apes. We've given away Clonexes, Moonbirds, Squiggles. We've done all sorts of NFTs through that mechanic. And then tons of sports cards, PSA 10 Charizards. We did a Magic Black Lotus. We've had early comics. We've had coins. We've had memorabilia, game used jerseys, all types of stuff that we've had run through that mechanic. And at the end of it, if it's one of those physical assets, we vault the item. You own the NFT. You sell it anywhere in the world. And at any time, someone can request and have that shipped to you. So you, in Vietnam, there's a lot of collectibles here in the United States that's a big shipping burden. Like there's a lot of people, they would say, well, I don't want to sell it because I don't want to have to go through the process of the international shipping. Well, now you can buy a Michael Jordan card from somebody, have it tokenized as an NFT. We have it safe in a vault and it's insured. You don't ever have to take possession of it, but you have the exposure to that asset. If you want the asset, you just burn the token, click a few buttons, and we'll ship it to you. If you don't ever want to take ownership of the asset, you could sell it back to someone in the States for crypto, instantly liquid, and you never had to touch that asset. So it's kind of akin to art in free ports and that sort of thing. And again, that is something that IRL collectors all understand. And they all understand having an NFT that is the proof of ownership for a real physical asset. Then once they're in, then we expose them to other collectibles that are purely digital, something like the Lost Miners of the Ether, something like various purely digital trading card sets, and then they get very excited about that because they've been red pilled. They understand the ownership, and once they understand the ownership, what's the difference in a 1 cent value of cardboard and ink to make a sports card versus an NFT that's minted to the Ethereum blockchain? There's really not a whole hell of a lot of difference there. It's just, what is your collector's thesis around that thing?
Just so that I understand this. So when people buy, that's the first thing, right? The infinite
moment. Yep.
Infinite moment, right? So is it like you have one card that you guys own and then you just like replicate that card digitally, but then there's like different rarities to that? Is that correct or no?
No, so the infinite moments, right? The infinite moments are just NFTs that we create, and that's actually a product that we sell. Those are collectible, and if you get a black one of one infinite moment, those typically sell. Like the ones in Series 1, I don't know that you could buy one for 1 or 2 ETH now. The most rare ones from Series 1. I think in the last release we had, the black rare, those were going for around US dollars. I think they were going for like $300 or $400, and those come out. All of our packs are $5. That is a digital collectible. And so again, that is teaching these people that are used to IRL the idea of digital cards, digital scarcity. It is if you want to buy commons, they're dirt cheap. So it's an onboarding mechanism to bring these IRL collectors in and let them get a wallet, understand how it all works. They've got NFTs. And then for buying those NFTs, now we give you the corresponding RAS tokens. And one of the things we do in our ecosystem, we're not trying to profit at all from this product that I'm explaining to you right now.
Okay.
Whatever we sell in infinite moments, we try to match it as close as we can to real value that goes into that drop. So it's like a 1-for-1. It's not like we're selling $1 million worth of NFTs and giving away $700,000 worth of prizes. We don't do that. If we sell $1 million worth of NFTs, we give away $1 million worth of prizes because it's a loss leader, we try to shoot for break even, but the goal is to build an ecosystem of people that believe in digital ownership. And then that's where we're able to create things that we can sell for a better valuation, because now we have a bigger network of people that believe in the collectability of that. So when we release our own trading card games and things we have coming this year, we have a built-in ecosystem of people that are ready to consume that. And it's because we've onboarded them, we've nurtured them, we've taught them the space, we've taught them how to look at things with a longer-term thesis. And I think now that we start bringing our own real products out, we'll see. It's time to see if we've built a strong enough belief system that there'll be strong collectability around those things. And I believe there will be.
Got it. So it seems like when you do these kind of like these packs, which is kind of like, it's like opening a booster pack, right? You buy it, you don't know what's inside, but you hope that you may get lucky. And then, if you get lucky, then you might have something valuable, right? And it seems like I guess the carrot on the stick, or the way to kind of get attention in the marketplace, is to have these crazy prizes. Like, for example, I think you guys are giving away a Tesla, right? Like that's like the new one going on right now, right? Yep. So I was thinking like, okay, well, the Tesla is like 50K. So it's like, who's paying for the Tesla? But it seems like the person paying for it is the people who are technically buying the booster packs. And then for you guys, like you said, you're trying to break even, right? So that whatever people pay for these digital assets, the prize is almost equivalent to that.
Yep.
Is that right?
And that's one thing is like, it's super transparent because anyone in our ecosystem, they know what we've sold in like infinite moments. They know what we've given away in prizes. If we were trying, there's just not a good business there, because I don't want to sell something where, creating a dynamic that's not long-term sustainable. And people, the thing is that everyone who has bought into this, on average, they should be way up, because the infinite moments do hold value. They are collectible. People are putting a value on them. And especially the rare ones. The rare ones go for premiums. And we put enough value in real physical assets that you're going to extract all that value out by playing the game. And so what happens is that if you go into our Discord and ask people, hey, tell me about your success with BlockPax, it's literally an ecosystem where almost every person you talk to is up. Like,
I see.
Show me another ecosystem other than like Yuga where that's the case. And even in Yuga, if you bought other deeds, you're not up, right? I mean, so in our ecosystem across the board, if you go in, people feel that they've won real cards, or they've sold their RAS tokens along the way. Because every round in that game we talked about, every round that moves forward, if you don't get snapped out, you won that round. Your token doubled in value. So a $50,000 card, everybody that pulls one of the tokens for that out of the pack, they're worth about $40. You paid $5 to get the original infinite moment. That was worth something. You may have hit a black 101 that you may have sold for $500. You may have hit a common, and if you hit a common, you open the RAS pack. The prize is a $50,000 card that you hit. That's a $20 EV out of the pack. Every round you survive, it doubles. Okay, and when you get down to the final two people are head to head, $25,000 per token.
If you win those eliminations, of course it will increase in value, right? But then what about the people that?
But you can sell anytime you want. That's the big thing, right?
Oh yeah, I understand that. But like, let's say somebody buys a pack and they just lose on the first round.
Yep.
So are they up? Like, who's buying their token?
They're out, but they still have their infinite moment. And the infinite
which
moments,
is a digital collectible.
And the infinite moments are collectible, and those do hold value. The commons may only be a couple of bucks, but again, if you have a red one, a black one, a gold one, blue one, you've still got more than you paid for the pack.
Gotcha. But then most people have commons, though, right?
Most people do, but if you average it out across all of the packs that you have, across if you rip 100 packs and you look at our pack odds, you're gonna have some color in there. I mean, again, you have two components of value here. One is the underlying prizes, which are a dollar for dollar match. For every $5 you put in, we put in $5 worth of real prizes. So you're break even right there. So everything that the infinite moments add is completely accretive on average.
Yeah. I mean, the question I have is like, okay, so if let's say, people pay $50K to buy these packs, right? Like all the people combines $50K. So now there's a Tesla. Great. So of course, if you have a chance to win the Tesla, the price of the asset is kind of, there's a ratio depending on how your chance to win. The asset, it's basically a ratio of the Tesla, right? Now, if you get eliminated, I'm just trying to understand, like, where does the value of, let's say, the common ones or the colored ones, like, where does it come from? Is it that people have them and they speculate, if I have X, I can get Y in the future? Or is
we build reasons for people to collect. We build point systems. We build, and you get extra rewards within the ecosystem based on the type of collection that you have. Like if you have higher points, you move up a leaderboard. It's amazing how much leaderboards motivate people. Just look at gaming. I mean, look at the amount of money that people put into Fortnite skins. They can't sell any of those. So there's a lot of different things that create collectability in something, and competition, set building, what's called rainbows, where you try to get one color of a particular issue of card all in the same color. All of those things do matter. And we do have various rewards in our ecosystem. For example, when we created the Lost Miners in our ecosystem, we took I think was it 2,000 of them? 2,000 of them went to people based on the quality of their infinite moment collection. So if you had a good infinite moment collection, you got more Lost Miners. The floor on Lost Miners today is, I don't know, 0.3 something. I don't know where we're at. So those are and we have a reward token coming out that you're going to be able to get based on the quality of your collection in our ecosystem. You're going to be able to use that to buy real physical cards in an auction that we're putting up. So you'll be able to say, oh, I was rewarded with 1,000 BPX. I want to take that 1,000 BPX and I'm going to go over to the auction. And I'm going to buy a real Charizard card with it. And so we're creating all of these different dynamics. And then within our ecosystem, because this happens in physical assets all the time, you can send your cards into an auction house and have them auction for you any day of the week. We're going to allow our community to consign assets in, and they'll go into the BPX auction. So if you send me a Michael Jordan card, we put it up for auction in the auction. People buy it with the reward token. You, the person that sent the card in, you get the reward token. You can now use it for something else that you want instead. That person now has a Michael Jordan card. And so it's just an entire, symbiotic relationship around all of these different things. But at the end of the day, value is a belief system. Why are CryptoPunks worth what they're worth? It's because me and 3,000 other holders believe that that's what they're worth, right? And so that's the same thing in our ecosystem. It's no different. What do people, the value of the infinite moments is built on the belief system. The bigger and stronger we get, the more that belief system forms. It's no different than a Michael Jordan card, a Pokemon card, or anything else. If we continue to build a vibrant ecosystem, we'll have more and more of that belief system, and that drives value long-term. And it is long-term sustainable. We see it in sports cards. We see it in Pokemon cards. You just have to create that connection with people and a reason for them to believe that it's worth holding.
That's fair. That's fair. And then I would say, like, from your explanation, the reason for why people should believe is really the physical products and asset that you're putting at the end of the rainbow.
Ultimately,
right?
That is a huge driver for our ecosystem. Yes.
Yeah. Which makes sense. I mean, that's much better than like nothing. Which, to be fair, a lot of NFT projects, it's almost like, not necessarily a Ponzi scheme, but it's like you buy this to get the next, to get the next, to get the next.
It is
when does it end?
It's a Ponzi, for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So I think that we're going to be one of the first ones that brings a native ecosystem together to where, like you said, that thing at the end of the rainbow, we know what a Michael Jordan 86 Fleer is worth in a certain grade. We know it. We know what a 1999 US Charizard is worth. We know what a 96 Japanese Charizard is worth in a certain grade. We know all those things. So that is a clear carrot at the end of the rainbow, like you said. And if we give people ways to get there and interesting things, that's ultimately where the yield comes from, so to speak. If we were thinking about this from the standpoint of, at the end of the day, when you create value, you create value where there was none before. It's got to be built on that belief system, but that belief system needs a foundation to stand on. And for us, that foundation is real life collectibles.
Yeah, and I can definitely respect that. Talk to me about Lost Miners, right? Because actually the reason I heard of your company and you is because a lot of people in our Discord was talking about like Lost Miners, and I'm like, okay, like what is going on here, right? And it seems like maybe that's the one that put you guys on the map like recently, right? So yeah, talk to me, like what is Lost Miners and like how did that come about? And how does it connect to blocks?
Yeah. So again, if I go back to our overarching goal is to create digital collectible adventures for people. So we want to come up with different things where we can establish real value in a digital collectible. And there's a couple different ways you can establish collectible value. One is licensing. You can license the right to NBA players, and that's what Panini does. That's what DraftKings is doing with their fantasy products. Those are licensing based. The other thing you could do is you could build your own franchises. That's essentially what Yuga has done. That's essentially what the Bored Apes are. They're a franchise. The CryptoPunks are a franchise. You can build out your own franchises, and that's what a lot of people in the space are trying to do. And then the other way you can do it is you do something that in and of itself, that particular thing is historic. Like when Tom Brady played his first ever football game, at the time, nobody knew that he was going to go on to win as many rings as he did. And we look back in history, that moment became historic. So the tickets to that game have a lot of value. So as we were looking at things that we could build real collectible thesis around, we knew that the merge was coming. And we knew what the merge was going to do. We knew that it was going to end mining on Ethereum. It was going to change the narrative to a more environmentally friendly narrative. It was going to change the issuance of ETH issuance rate. It was going to make the token way more stable and much, ultrasound money. It was going to be a big freaking deal. And so we said, look, somebody's going to mint the last contract. Somebody's going to mint the last. They're going to deploy the last contract. They're going to mint the last tokens. Why not us? So we set out to do that. And I'll spare your listeners for all the details, but we have a really detailed white paper. If you go to our OpenSea and scroll down near the bottom of the description, it's linked right there. And that white paper will take you through everything we did to deploy this contract right at the last moment, milliseconds before the mining age ended, instantly staked all the tokens to the contract. I think people, they understand this. Like this is, they all participated in it. Like if you bought any NFTs during that era, you understand what mining was. It takes a 65 IQ to understand that eliminating 99% of your carbon emissions in the modern day, when the environment is so important, it's really easy to understand how that matters and why that's important. And people can very quickly connect the dots that, okay, the last assets ever created in that mining age, okay, there seems to be value there. Let's look at the next thing. Let's look at the art. We went and got a fine artist. His name is Charles Pate, internationally shown. He's a sculptor. His sculpting work is unbelievable. And we brought him in and told him we wanted to make pixel art. And he created this kind of, it looks almost abstract if you look at it up close, but if you back away from it and put them in a little tiny PFP circle, they take on almost a high fidelity look. If you lay a simple blur filter over them, they look like a photograph. I don't know. Yeah, you can see it. This miner right here, that's literally the pixel art off of this guy. So this is the pixel art version, and then hanging on my wall back there, that's all that is a simple blur filter, and it looks like a photograph. And I think that's super cool in the art. So all the pieces just really came together on this. It's got the technological innovation that gives it a really nice narrative and story. It's got the art that goes with it. It's dead freaking simple. You can understand it, and people have really vibed with it, and it's done really well here in a bear market.
Yeah, it definitely has done pretty well in the bear market. So when you guys minted it, yeah, I understand the I guess the historic value of like this is the last NFT on Ethereum before they migrated. Right? I totally understand that. Right? This was it a free mint? I'm just curious.
It was a free claim. So these people, you could have got these for $8, like, or give or take after the initial claim. So we didn't take any money for these. That's part of the story. I'm a bit of a CryptoPunk maxi. I love the CryptoPunk story. So we modeled a lot of what we did after the CryptoPunks. I'm going to be launching a legacy project for these, similar to how the CryptoPunks are. I feel the CryptoPunks are the bellwether, and I think the Lost Miners are born out of that same ethos. Like there's no royalty on the collection. That's very intentional. The reason I didn't do a royalty wasn't because I hate money. I didn't do a royalty because I didn't ever want the collection to find itself in a situation where some of the holders were working around the royalty and some were paying it, and it would cause fissures within the community and people would be pissed off at each other. So I just removed it. So it removed that external dependency. There's nothing for them to bicker over on that regard. We've just really tried to strip away as much of the external dependencies we can and leave behind a truly pure digital collectible.
Yeah. So would you say like Lost Miners, is it like a form of marketing in a sense for everything that you're doing for the whole infrastructure play? Or how do you look at it?
So we look at it as what I've labeled it as I've labeled it as our legacy collection. Okay. And
so what does that mean? Legacy.
It just means that this is the high token in our ecosystem. This is
like Genesis, right? Like
this is our Bored Ape. Like this is our OG. Got it. This is so there's and like for everything else that we want to do well, the miners need to do well because they're very important in our ecosystem. And then we're going to have other franchises that we're going to develop, the IP around, that we're going to work on for years and years and years. But my hope is that everyone who comes into our ecosystem will aspire to join us and hold a Lost Miner the same way people aspire to own a CryptoPunk. I mean, that's what I want for this collection. And I think as that narrative is never going to go away. Like, I don't believe it'll ever go away. When I say that narrative, I mean the narrative of the merge. I believe in 10 years, ETH market cap will have flipped Bitcoin. I believe that's going to happen. I don't know where you are as far as your Bitcoin maxism or not. We can have that debate. I believe it will flip it. And I think it'll be largely driven off of the environmental narrative. And I think when people look back and say, wow, how did this happen? How did ETH become this powerhouse that it is? It's programmable. It's got the right narrative. I could not be more bullish on it. And I just don't think it'll ever go away. I think people will always look back to that moment and it's going to matter. And there's that point in time, and there we are, the last collectible asset. it's just an easy story, man. And we see a lot of people trying to co-opt the idea that something is historic. I mean, you got people right now minting alien punks onto an ordinal and saying that that's historic. It's like you didn't even come up with original art. Like, no, as a collector, I would never in a million years buy that. It's just blows my mind. But the bad thing is that the tokens may have had some historic nature to them, and I think you kind of ruined it when you stuck a alien punk on the dadgum thing. But a lot of people are trying to grab onto the historic narrative. But if you really start to unpack a lot of those, they start to fall apart, and it's really not. It's just not. But like with what the miners are, the last collection of the mining age. I don't know. I mean, you make your own decision. Do you think that matters? And if you do, then you're probably feel pretty good owning a lost miner. If you think that it's just total bullshit and won't ever amount to anything, then
it's cool, right? Yeah.
Don't want to buy one. I mean, people are going to make their own decisions.
Okay. So I get the historic part of the lost miners, right? But I feel like the way you guys are playing it is lost miner is a pivotal part of the whole ecosystem you're building, right? So I would say, like, for a CryptoPunk, it's like what's the utility of CryptoPunk? It's just like it was one of the first. It's a flex, and it's like has historical value, right? So it actually doesn't have to do anything. It just needs to exist. For lost miners, there's the part of it just existing. I get that, and then there's the other part of like, okay, how does this tie into BlockPax, right? So it's actually both. Right.
Well, I think it's if Larva Labs had wanted to go on and build in the space, the CryptoPunks would have been a bellwether for them that would have been very important. Meebits would have never had the success they did had it not been for the fact that they were the pioneers with the CryptoPunks.
Real quick, what do you mean by a bellwether?
Meaning something that's going to stand the test of time, like that is something that that's a phrase here in the U.S. I don't know where it originates from, but it basically is a symbol of strength and is a symbol of something that kind of stands at the pinnacle of what that era or that item is, right? So so that's what, and I think for them, had they decided that they were going to go on and build in the space and do a lot of other things, that CryptoPunks collection for them would have stood at the top of their mountain and would have been very important for everything else they were doing. It was important when they launched Meebits, and then they just got so wildly successful. It was worth so much. They just didn't really want to keep developing. We've heard their story. They were like, we're out. They sold it to Yuga. And now Yuga is carrying that mantle forward and they're building it. But obviously the apes are very important to their ecosystem. The punks now are in that ecosystem as far as part of the IP catalog. And that's where I see it all fitting for us as well. And we do want to be here for the long time. I mean, I have no VCs in this business. We talked about our reward token that's going to be coming out. No VC rewards on that. There's no VCs to dump on the community. No VCs hold any of our other assets. It's us and it's our community. That's it. Those are the stakeholders. And so it's really easy. I don't have to worry. I have nobody over top of my shoulder worried about where I'm going to get profit from tomorrow. We've been able to build this the way I wanted to build it, the way the team wanted to build it. And that collection is very important to us. And we want to make sure that we shine a very bright light on it and that everyone sees it. Everyone that comes into our ecosystem, I want them to hear that story and I want them to want a lost miner. Absolutely. But at the same time, if I got struck by lightning tomorrow, heaven forbid, if I got struck by lightning, the lost miners, their provenance doesn't change. Their story doesn't change. Hell, they may go up because that poor sap Frenchie got struck by lightning. So we should buy one to remember him. I mean, so like the collection lives on without me. It's important to what we're doing, but I believe that it definitely has its own ability to escape any external dependencies.
Okay.
Gotcha. So that's kind of where I'm at on that. It's important, yes, but it's not something where people need to be looking at that thinking, all right, what's the next airdrop off of a miner? We're not doing that. That's not what they're about. Got you.
Okay. So I get that. But if people were to buy one, right, does it play a role in the ecosystem? Like, I understand that you would rather have it like be able to exist and be a thing, right? But people are wondering, right? If that's how the space works, right? It's like, oh, if I have this, does it help me get something else? Or
so when we launched it, we had a few things that we put out where we told everybody, because what I said, look, I do want this to get to a point very quickly where you're not expecting what's the next piece of utility that we're going to try to bolt onto the miners. But at the same time, I want everybody who's here to be able to participate in some of the big things that we have coming. So the miners will be able to claim the reward token. The miners, we're giving a path to, I don't know if you want to go down this rabbit hole, but we actually own the first proof of stake contract as well. We minted it with the same technology. It's called Wonders of the First. If a listener wants to go check that out, they can at least read it high level at wondersotf.xyz, and they can learn about that. We're going to provide a pathway for our miners to be able to pair up and get one of those tokens, which I think a lot of people are going to find pretty interesting. We're going to develop them using a lot of the similar techniques that we did that made the miners successful. And so we did offer those utilities to miners, but we did it before we set the miners a sail. However, I don't want anybody to get in and think that while the miners are super important, they are super important, and they're a collectible that we're going to support the collectability around them. The same way I hope and pray I don't wake up tomorrow and Yuga tells me there's an airdrop for punk owners. Like, I don't want that. That's not what the punks are. I want to wake up tomorrow and hear that the punks are that they're in a new museum, or that some family office has bought 50 punks and they've locked them away in a vault, and it's further shocked the supply. Those are the kind of things that I'm going to try to work to make happen for the miners. I want the miners to be in museums. I want the miners to be held by family offices. Funny enough, we had a family office that bought miners this week. So, and they're buying those with a long-term thesis around what they are, their significance, not having to monitor it and worry about what the next airdrop off of it is.
Got you. Okay, that makes sense. And I respect the fact that you are doing your best to set the clear expectations, right? Because like a lot of times projects will be like, you got to get in because we're going to do so much airdrops and whatever, right? And it's like, right, how sustainable is that? How long will it last?
It's certainly not. Certainly
not, right? So I respect the fact that you are upfront and clear about what people are getting into. So that's great on you. I guess I think about the future of the ecosystem that you're building, right? Like, I'm curious to know, like, what type of like digital collectibles do you want to do, right? So not the physical, I guess like physical backed products, but more like if you were to create like new IP or moments or something like how are you thinking about that?
So I'll tell you one that we have in the hopper right now, and it's not a big secret. People in our ecosystem know that it's coming, but we have our first trading card game that is coming out here in the next, call it 45 days. And a really cool feature of these is we built the art for the characters. They're called Bantams. It's called the Bantam Brigade. So if you're familiar at all with Pokemon, that's similar to what a Bantam is. It's a creature that battles other creatures based on certain powers. And the Bantam art is, I wish I could show it. I actually don't have any way to show it. Actually, I could probably pop my phone up and show you one that I have. But
sure.
But the thing with the Bantams is going to be, they're going to be an actual trading card franchise that we will all be able to own. Here's one of the characters here. So now the neat thing about this character is actually based on the resource Step Assault from the Otherside metaverse. So when you own this character, he looks kind of like Step Assault from Otherside. When you own this character, we have in the collection, we own deeds that have the Step Assault resource on them. And our holders, for that creature to have power, he needs to be fed Step Assault. And so we will grant you a portion of the Step Assault that we get from our deed to be able to feed your Bantam. And as you build a whole deck of these Bantams, you'll be able to fight them and you'll be able to win different prizes. But here's one of the features that we have that I think is so cool. You have two different types of people. Like, I collect Pokemon cards. I collect Magic cards. I've never played either of those games ever. But I just collect them because I love the art and the characters and what they are. And I've got a good thesis of why I collect them.
Yeah.
What if I could, because I'm a big Pokemon collector and I have a 1999 PSA 10 Charizard, what if they had a tournament every year that the only people that could play in it are people that own a 1999 PSA 10 Charizard? I still wouldn't play in it, but what if I could designate a player to go play in my place? And if he
Okay.
wins, we split the prize pool. So what we're going to do is we're going to allow people to collect these bantams. And when you have a full brigade of the highest, rarest bantams, there will be tournaments where you have to have those rare bantams to play. But if you don't want to play the game, if you're a rich guy that just wants to collect, you can designate some younger kid to go play in your place, and then you split the prize pool. So you get to be a team owner. So it's taking aspects of eSports, like the idea of owning my own Bantam team, even though I will never play, is super exciting to me. If I could take my Pokemon collection and let someone else play and I get to pull for them, and if they win, we split the prize, that's super exciting to me. And you get emissions from the other side. So you asked me, how do we create something collectible? It's collectible because it's tied into the other side. It gets you access to other side resources that you can then use however their whole game ecosystem comes together. The cards themselves are collectible, and you're going to compete with other collectors to build the best deck so that you can put the best team into the various tournaments. But you don't have to screw with it on your own. You can actually designate a player to play in your space. And we'll have free-to-play methods where players that can't afford the big NFTs, they can come in and play for free and prove how good they are. And then the people that have the big collections can cherry pick from those players who they want to let play for them. I think that's going to be just a smash hit. I really do. I think people are going to love it. I think players are going to love it. And I think high-end collectors are really going to enjoy it.
Got it. I get that. Now, referencing from, let's say, GameFi, right? So like we've seen like a lot of like Axie Infinity and other inspirational games that, not inspirational, but games that took inspiration from that game, do a similar model with the guilds, right? In terms of like, there's certain NFTs are more rare or they're stronger. And like, if you're going to play in a tournament, then you need the most rarest ones, right? Mm-hmm. Because they're stronger. But the issue is that for those type of games, and, correct me if I'm wrong, but like typically they all eventually just go down, right? Because it's like the narrative is like, oh yeah, like you can somehow in a pseudo way like own a esports team in a sense by lending out your assets. The problem is that a lot of people play these games because of the anticipation or speculation that they're going to make more money. So the time and money they put in, they're going to get a reward out of it.
For sure.
But then typically what happens is everything just goes down, right? Especially during a bear.
Yep,
so then it's like, so the real question is like, is the game going to be good enough so that people will play if there was no expectation of return on investment? Yeah. So share me your thoughts on that.
So you're 100% right. So we have to ship a nice, entertaining game. And the one thing that I'm fairly confident in is our ability as a team to iterate to success. And I think in the 18 months that we've been here, those in our ecosystem would attest to that. And so we have a really nice framework for our TCG. It is very simple to play on the casual end, but it has full complexity that we can open up. It's actually something I created this when I was a teenager, and I actually played it with baseball cards with my friends. We would play this game head to head. I've always been a bit of inventor. I talked earlier about the patents and that sort of thing that I have. And so I feel like we have a good game. Like, one of the things when you have something that works, like on God, my daughter came into me yesterday and asked me, I have what's called a prototype deck of the game. And my daughter came in and she's 11 years old. She's got Roblox and everything else in her room. And she came out and said, Dad, can we play 7 spells? And the way I called the game 7 spells in the demo version. And so I've watched other people play it. I've watched my daughter and her friends play it. I've watched teenagers play it. My son's age group play it. And I feel like we have a really good game. But you're absolutely right that the game itself has to be interesting enough that it could stand alone. And then you can put all sorts of exciting Web3 stuff around it. But if we totally whiff on the TCG side, then I agree with you 100%. That's the execution risk in our business as it relates to the TCG. So if you come in on the Bantam Brigade, you come in because you like the idea of everything we're saying, you like the art, you like the concept of the team owners, you like all that stuff. We still have to execute and build a good game. Now, one of the real awesome things that we have tapped into, I think, better than a lot of other ecosystems, is the ability to develop alongside our community. when we did the Lost Miners art, we showed them every attribute as it was created. And we took their feedback. And one of the things you have to do is the community is not always the best at telling you when something, they're not the best at knowing what ideas you need to build, but what they're amazingly good at is showing you whether they love something or whether they have apathy for it or whether they hate it. And when you get good at picking up on that, apathy kills. When you see things that people are like, okay, that's pretty good, scrap it, move on. You screwed up. You want people to say, I love it. And it's okay if some people say they hate it, as long as enough people love it. And a lot of people, they're so afraid of failure that they'll hear from the community. And what they'll do is they'll try to make as many people happy as they can. And what they do is they optimize to mediocrity and they optimize to apathy, because nobody's complaining, but nobody's jumping up and down excited either. And I think that's one of the things that our ecosystem that we've done amazingly well is tapping into the ability to build with our community. And I'm very confident that we're going to be able to do that with the game mechanic. We'll be able to roll it out when they see how they react to it. If they don't like it, we iterate, and I'm confident that we'll get it there.
All right. I mean, I like the confidence. You know, that, I mean, it's all about belief at the end of the day, right? But yeah, I mean, it's all about shipping a good game, right? If the game's not fun, then no one's going to play it.
And understand,
but,
I'm not talking about a AAA video game here. Like when I say it's a TCG, it is a TCG. Like we'll have some animations where your cards will smash into each other and stuff. But But this is not running around with a gun, first person shooter, shooting up stuff. That's not
it's a different thing.
It's a TCG.
Yeah, even you can even say like Pokemon. Like I played Pokemon on the iPad before, and it's like it's not like these fancy animations or anything. It's just like the cards. There's like a little water element, and that's it, right? But it's more about the collectability of the cards and the gameplay and stuff like that. So I get it. Switching topics a little bit, what can you tell me about the upcoming mint that you have coming up? Right, we have the I don't want to pronounce it incorrectly.
Schrödinger circuits. So Schrödinger is a scientist that came up with a paradox. The idea of the paradox was there's a box, there's a cat in it, and you put poisonous gas into the box. Is the cat alive or dead? He's both alive and dead until you open the box. That sounds kind of cheesy and dumb, but it actually leads to a lot of different scientific thought and a lot of scientific theoretical experiments around Schrödinger's paradox of Schrödinger's cat. And so the circuits are the first in the Schrödinger series. So what I hope is if this is successful, we will do multiples of these. The next one could be Schrödinger's stars, and it could be where the art is more space themed or something, and there's a different prize mechanic underlying it. But with this one, the Schrödinger circuits, they celebrate electricity. They celebrate the advancements in electricity. And when you look at the generative art by Andrew McWay, he created something that looks just like if you broke your computer open and looked at one of the circuit boards, it looks like a circuit board, but it's generative art. It's really cool. You can see samples of that we've put out on the BPX Collects Twitter. So if you mint one, you will be one of 1,200 circuit holders. Mm-hmm. Your circuit is both art and it's a actual Tesla, the car, at the same time, just like Schrödinger's cat. The only way you'll know is to open the box and see whether you win or not. So it's a raffle that you have to burn your token to find out if you win or not. And if you burn it, your art is gone. So you have to make the decision. Do I want to burn my art to see if I can win the $50,000 prize, or do I keep my art and enjoy it? And that's the decision that the community will be faced with. And this will last for 18 months. One can burn every 10 minutes. And certainly as more of them burn, your odds of winning go way up. So there's more of an incentive to burn. If the more of them that burn, the more valuable, well, not valuable, I don't want to use that word. The lower the supply is for the market after the promotion is over. And if you look at Andrew's other work, his Genesis work has a floor price right now of I think it's around 0.25. And so it's, he's a legit generative artist. This is a legit piece of generative art. I would never burn it. Personally, I'd rather keep the art. But degens are going to degen. I mean, some people are going to burn them and try to win the big prize. And then it'll be real interesting to see when someone hits. If nobody hits in 18 months, we'll award the prize to charity. So, so it's a pretty interesting dynamic in that regard.
And this is is it a free mint?
It is a free mint. Yeah.
So I'm curious. So like, if the value of the, the thing that people have a chance to win is like around like 50K, right? Where does that money come from?
So remember I told you that we sell our drops. We sell our BlockPax drops on the Infinite Moments. We take some of that money. The value of the Tesla, it was actually baked into that drop. So out of the total 1,200, 800 or so were in that drop, and then we did another 400 that we do a free mint because that allows us to grow. But the key is like those. If you take 1,200 and divide it by the $50,000 prize, they should be about $40 if the only thing people cared about was the Tesla. But the ones that were in our drop that people were able to, those were instant wins that they got out of the packs. People were trading them around while that drop was live. They were going for like 125 to 150 US dollars. So they were going for about 3 times the value of the Tesla because they have the value of the art and the value of the Tesla all baked into that one NFT. So the ones that went into our drop created, call it 100,000 of EV for the community. And then we took another 50,000 of EV and awarded it to the free mint. If these 1,200 open at $100, that would be $120,000 worth of EV. The Tesla's only $50,000.
Okay. EV is what exactly?
Expected value.
Okay, got it.
Right. So if you own one out of 1,200 tokens for a $50,000 prize, your average expected value, your average EV would be about $40. But the tokens have already been selling for closer to $150 in our BlockPax drop. It's kind of like the ones that you could get in that RAS mechanic. At the end of that, everyone who was holding the ones that came out of those packs, those were all allow list spots. So it's basically like they were able to trade the allow list spots while that drop was live. It's now locked, and then those people were added to the allow list. And then we took the other 400 and we did a big, huge pre-mint raffle, and that's how we got everybody on the list. So now on Wednesday, 1,200 of these will get minted. Some of them will be rares. Some of them will be commons. They can all be burned. It's going to be an interesting dynamic. And then whatever the market decides those are worth, that's the amount of value that was created from that, the combination of the art and the game theory.
Makes sense. Now, I'm actually curious from like a business standpoint, right? If you're taking the revenue from the packs and you're putting it into the prizes to make sure the prizes are great, right? Which is great. Would it be fair to say that you're just like trying to operate at a break even point to continue
that's
to keep?
What I said. That's exactly what I was saying earlier. The prizes and stuff we offer are not a profit driver for us. You can't build a good business there. But what I can build a good business around is Bantam Brigade. If I can build the next Pokemon and do it in Web3 and have an established loyal collector base on day one that's ready to consume what we build, and then people enjoy that game, like you said earlier, that we got to ship a good game, we've got to create good collectability, we've got to create that good team owner mechanic, all those things, then we can sell booster packs and create a reason a Charizard is a first edition Charizard is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars is because the market says it is. And that's because millions of kids around the world play Pokemon. So can I get a lot of people, young and old, to play Bantam Brigade? We have a sports theme game that's coming behind it that has a spin on professional sports that'll launch in the summer. Can I get people to play that game? Can I get people to play these different TCGs and build collectability around them? And if so, those are products that we can monetize, and we can continue to onboard with our gamification tied to the real prizes. We can take part of our profit that we make in our TCGs, and we can put more assets up for sale in our auction, and we can continue to drive real life product value back to our ecosystem while creating real collectibles that people want to hold for a long time. And that's what we're looking to build.
Yeah, so that's the grand plan. No, I like it. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think we're one of the few companies that's willing to say that NFTs are going to be our product. We're going to build, when I build a trading card game, Wizards of the Coast, when they print Pikachu cards, those are their product. And we're going to print Bantam cards that are our product. And if we do a good job, that product is going to be something people want to own and they don't want to sell. And if I create that mechanic, when people have something that they don't want to sell, but they can sell it, generally the price of that thing increases.
Yeah.
And that's just the way collecting works. So I think
Yeah.
I think I come from a unique position of understanding collectability. I'm not afraid to make the NFT the product and create a real business around it. And everyone else is, honestly, they're almost afraid to say it. They're almost afraid to say that an NFT is a product. Everybody thinks that you can't create more NFTs because you create dilution. That's true. If I tried to create more lost miners, I would dilute the hell out of the lost miners. But creating Bantam Brigade and building a TCG that operates completely siloed away from lost miners, that doesn't dilute the lost miners. And if the lost miner holders that are happy and enjoy what we're doing, if 10% of them want to come play Bantam Brigade, great. And if the other 90% don't, also great. Maybe they want to play the next thing we produce. But if they don't ever want to play anything and they only want to hold lost miners, fine, do that. And that's another thing too, while we're talking about that, I think a lot of younger founders, especially, they're afraid to silo pieces of something to create a larger universe of products that people can choose. If you go to the trading card companies, I'm a huge baseball fan and I'm a huge baseball collector. There are probably 50 baseball products, trading card products that get produced a year that I don't touch, but I love the 5 that I do touch. But those other ones all drive value back to the entire baseball collecting ecosystem. And what happens if you think back to your Venn diagrams in school, I may collect these 5, you may collect these 5, and we have a little bit of overlap there, right? And then as you create more people in the ecosystem, you create more and more of those overlaps. So I'm out of the lost miners, maybe only 10% will do Bantam Brigade. Out of Bantam Brigade, maybe only 10% will do the sports game that we're releasing this summer. Maybe only 20% of those will do the big fantasy game that we're releasing around Wonders of the First. But as you do that and you build out a larger and larger ecosystem, each of those products becomes symbiotic to the other. And then we put our one reward token, BPX, at the epicenter of it all, along with the real physical collectibles. And we have a real sustainable business with a revenue model, with a reward model, with a long-term collectability thesis model, and it all just comes together. And I think that's the grand plan.
That's great. I mean, that's a great explanation, actually. So I'm glad you came on and actually shared that. I think right now it's like people are so focused on kind of like winning a popularity contest, especially when it comes to PFPs, right? They're just like, oh, we're the best. And it's like, oh, attention is the economic value, right? But at the same time, I feel like not everybody wants to play that game. There's so many different ways to, like, NFT is just a technology, right? So you can have trading card games, you can have popularity contests over here, you can do so many things. I feel like it's good that you're kind of coming from a different perspective, especially because you have experience in like actual like collectibles, right? Based on your history. So I definitely can appreciate you taking that experience and applying it into NFTs in I think a different way.
Thank you. And we'll see how it all plays out, man. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't pretend to have a crystal ball.
Sure.
You know, I look at a lot of these things that I see that drive off of the hype cycles and that sort of thing. Yes, that's what got the Bored Apes to where they are, but that was the lightning strike, right? That's the black swan event or the unicorn event. The other thing that also when you constantly go one hype cycle to the next, and that's what you're basing your business on, it's only a matter of time until you fail to meet the expectation. You're setting these lofty expectations and then you don't meet them. And when expectations are greater than reality, that's when FUD happens.
Yeah, I agree.
Every instance, it's simply expectations exceeding reality. And if you keep people, you may not pump, your stuff may not shoot the moon. When I tell people there's nothing coming for lost miners, that there's no airdrops, there's some people that immediately say, well, hell, if you're not going to airdrop me, French, I don't want it. And they move on. And that's fine, because the next person that does buy it says, I love that. I want to buy this thing to hold it for 20 years. And that's why, you know, when you look at where that collection is for the amount of that it's traded and for the stability and the strength that it has in the collection, you look at collections that have 10 times the trading volume and they have a lower floor because it's all just been nothing but hype. And it's just this musical chairs. Nobody really wants the damn token. They don't want it. They just want the money.
Yeah, that's fair.
There's people that have lost miners. They want the token. Like I want my
Yeah.
Cryptopunks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love for them to go to $1 million, but
Yeah.
I enjoy them. I never wake up and think is today the day I'm going to sell my punk. No, the
Yeah.
price isn't anywhere near where I would consider selling my punks.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that feel the same way about their lost miners.
Yeah,
A lot of the other stuff is floating around. It's just like, ooh, did we get 20% today or 30%? Ooh, I'm out. And then
it's a different game. I mean, you know, like when I observe like different founders and stuff, especially when they go on AMAs and interviews, I agree with you. A lot of times they'll promise a lot, and then you know what they say doesn't always match up with the reality of the situation. That people are like, you know, they're like, I'm waiting, what's going on, right? And usually what happens is they get a lot of FUD. But what's interesting is that a lot of times these type of people will kind of be like, oh, the space is toxic and this and that. But actually, the way I look at it is they brought it onto themselves, because if they never
100%,
right
100%. I try to keep very detailed notes on the things that I say that we're going to do. And I'll tell you this, in Web3, stuff is hard, man. And sometimes like I still have one little PO app that I owe my community from a while back. There's not a lot of people that get it, and it just keeps getting tabled, but I haven't forgotten about it. But when you tell them big things that you're going to ship and you're going to deliver, you got to deliver on those things, man. And you have to be, but the other thing I found is that people they really enjoy learning about the process and what you're thinking. And it helps again to reduce, it keeps expectations down. Like I'll do these things where I'll go in and I'll just do a whiteboard and I'll pull my iPad out and I'll just tell people what I'm thinking. And I'll caveat things at different levels. I'll say, this is just right off the dome, still in the early stages. This thing is pretty well fleshed out and it's going to happen. I'll give them kind of ranges on where that stuff is, all just trying to manage expectations. And so the last thing in the world I want is for someone to mint a circuit on Wednesday and be disappointed with the art. How do I prevent that? I showed them the damn art. They've seen it. I don't want them to be disappointed with the way the burn mechanic works. We've already told them what the burn mechanic is. We've told them what the prize is. There's no, hey, wait 3 weeks and I'm going to tell you what the burn mechanic is.
Yeah.
Does that maybe kill some speculation and stuff? Yeah. And I think that's a good thing, because that when you don't have people that are buying those Pico tops and then getting wrecked, then they're not pissed off and they're just happy in your ecosystem.
Yeah. I feel you, man. I feel you. Well, I appreciate
and you can still be profitable and make good returns in that. Like you can operate in those ecosystems and you can operate with more confidence, because you know that, what everything is built on is not this fake house of cards. You know that it's built on a real stable foundation of people that want to be there. And it just, the gains may not be, we don't have a lot of 10Xs in our ecosystem. We've never, we have, I mean, the miners are more than a 10X if you got them right off but they didn't 10X overnight. They 10X'd over
time.
September 15th was the merge, and they came from free to where they are now. So they are way up, but we don't get these like parabolic 10X overnight type things. And if we do, frankly, if there's not some really good reason for it, I would be one of the first ones to be worried, because I'd be like, why the hell did it go up 10X if there's not a real driver for it?
That's right.
And there's not usually a lot of drivers for overnight 10Xs.
Yeah, I got you. Okay, so now that's we're gonna wrap up the interview over here. But before we go ahead and go, and I appreciate you sharing your whole story and everything, is there any final words that you kind of want to leave with our audience today before we head out?
No, man, I'd love for people to come check out what we're doing. We have a section, our main section of our Discord is not gated. Hop in there. You can talk to a lot of our OGs. They can tell you about the stuff we've got going on. The games are fun. People are making the P word profit in our ecosystem, playing the games and doing the different things that we're doing. Part of it is because we're investing heavily in our business overall. And we're still in that phase where we're trying to really build a strong foundation. Again, we don't have anyone to answer to except the community and ourselves. And that's a big piece of it. We're all out there every single day in the trenches with you guys. And I'd love to have you come over and just check out what we're doing. And I think within our ecosystem, you can probably find something that you vibe with. And young, old collector, new collector, it doesn't matter. If you've got a piece of your Web3 budget that you're thinking longer term about it, I would say give our collection a look. If all you're doing is degening, nothing, no hate, go for it. probably not the place for you. But if you've got any part where you're thinking that you want to be a little longer term minded, I think we may have some stuff you'll find interesting.
All right, amazing to hear. Well, Frenchie, I appreciate you coming on Parallax and sharing your story, and I'll catch you later, man.
Thanks, Patrick.
Yeah, no worries.